I am at the 2016 Townie meeting with the man who needs no introduction, Dr. Tuan Pham, who I think is the number one guy in dentistry when it comes to leadership. I think when you come out of dental school, you got math and calculus and geometry and trig down, and you know that 23 ATP come out of glucose on the Krebs cycle. But damn it, the thing that's the hardest to learn is leading other people. The most complicated thing on the planet is people.
Absolutely.
And nobody leads them better than you do. What did they not learn in leadership in school? And not too many questions before I let you rip, but when I ask dentists all the time, I say, like, what keeps you up at night? Mm-hmm. What stresses you out? It's never my bonding agent. It's never I can't find a Crown and Bridge lab. It's always the hygienist wants a raise, and my overhead's too high, and she wants a raise just because she's been here a year. And last year I had more. I had lower overhead last year than this year, so my overhead's gone up, and she wants a raise. My assistant, I can't tell if she's lazy or demoralized. People are so complicated. How did you master leadership, and how did you get so damn good at it?
I just like anyone.
I think it's the hair. I think it's totally your hair.
I always get my hair done for any interviews or any potential things with you, Howard. So I always get my hair nicely prepared for you. But in any case, my thoughts on this is, we're dentists. We're very technical people. We're very good at learning systematic skills, how to prep a crown, how to bond a crown. You look at Corey Glenn, they can plan implant placement before you even do it, have stents, probably the completed crown is already ready before it's even in the mouth. If you can do complicated things like that, it's not hard to lead. And I think a lot of times dentists have problems with that is, first of all, we don't have any training in it. Dental school, we're technical. We train how to do this and that, but we don't have leadership skills. It's not implemented. And so I think in dentistry, it's like a mystery. And so when it comes to leading your staff or anything like this, we don't have practice in it. If you think about how many times per year an average doctor speaks to their staff about issues, it's probably 2 or 3 minutes there. A couple times a year. You add it up, you get barely any practice over it. And so why do dentists do this? Well, part of the reason is we don't have a system. We haven't learned how to do this, okay? It's this big mystery. I can prep a crown, I can watch CREC videos, I can learn any procedures, and it gives me comfort because I have an outline to learn. We want comfort. We want that feeling of easiness. We don't like the fear of the unknown. And so I, like any dentist, I made a commitment in my life that I'm not gonna let things bother me, I find that issues are opportunities to find the solution. If I was so naive and I never recognized that I had any problems in my office, then I would live this life in ignorance, Nothing would get corrected. People would run the office amok, and we wouldn't go where we want to. So I like problems. Well, I don't necessarily like them, but I like the fact that I can recognize them, and if I do, that's my opportunity to find the solution. So just like any dentist, I made mistakes in my career. I'm not perfect. I worked at them. I tried things. I'm not afraid to try things if I think that it may or may not work, and I evaluate the solution, the results of it to see if it works. But when it comes to leadership, I learned myself, and I'm a nerd. I read everything, I analyze everything, and I try things. But when it comes to dentists, I think that we just need a system. And so, at the Dental Town meeting, my lecture was on leadership and management, and I had very good outlines and systematic ways for dentists to talk to patients and to staff. You can have difficult conversations, but the problem is a lot of dentists, we don't know anything except extremes. We recognize it the first time, we let these issues bottle up and it festers in our head, and then finally when we're ready to say something, we've reached our reaching point, our melting point, our blowing point, or whatever it is, and we tend to have a lot of emotion, and we've built this up, and then we have these emotional conversations with our staff about something, and we're like, you've done this 30 times in a row without any correction, but they don't realize it was very minor issue likely, so the staff didn't even realize it, so it's all perspective. They're like, why is my doctor yelling at me for something that I just messed up the previous time? And so a lot of doctors, they don't know the system, in my opinion, of how to talk to patients in a systematic way, staff in a systematic way. And so if I can teach people that, for example, I give you that control. If you have that outline, and then your fear of the unknown, because we dentists want systems, if we have this system on how to talk to people effectively, then I think any dentist can gain control of their practice. So long answer. I hope that addresses what you're
No,
asking.
it wasn't long at all. It needs
Yeah.
to be 10 times longer because I know what my homies are thinking. You're saying, I ain't like you.
Yeah.
I'm shy, introvert. I'm not a people person.
Sure.
And I'm a technical guy. I should have been an engineer. I'm never going to be a leader. I can't be like you. You were born different.
Well, I'm going
than
to counter
her.
that. No, I was not. You know me on Dentaltown as the person that I am. Before Dentaltown, before I discovered this outlet, and I told you the other day how I thank you for creating this because it opened my world and my mind to how dentists should be in practice. I was a very different person, very traditional. I thought that I had just listened to, followed what the previous dentist told me and how he did things, and that's what I would duplicate, okay? And so I was not born a leader. I don't think I was, but I realized that, I'm a nerdy dentist. If I can learn how to do these amazing technical skills that very few percentage of the population can, if I can do that, I can learn other skills that, allow me to lead and allow me to talk to people better and be more effective. And so it's just a system, As with anything, I talk in my lecture that I did for people who came, there's a book from Malcolm Gladwell called The Outliers. I love that book. It talks about how Tiger Woods, Bill Gates became successful, and it talks about practicing and doing something so many times. It says if you do something 10,000 hours, well, you're going to build confidence in that. Okay, you're going to be an expert. You're not going to just be proficient at 10,000 hours. You're an expert at whatever you intend to do. And so, well, with anything, as we progress in our careers with our hand skills, we become better. But if you say, I can't lead people, well, you got to start somewhere. You learn the system of how to talk to people. You pick your battles first. You say, hey, I'm going to talk to my assistant and I'm going to prove to myself that I can get her to put the instrument out each time and she understands why. You go baby steps. But each time you practice it and you implement it, and it doesn't have to be these major, people think that leadership is this major changes that you have to have in your office. Everything's small and cumulative. You practice here, there. It adds up, and before you know it, you've been practicing 10,000 hours and you're a very effective and masterful leader of your office.
What was the name of that thread on Dentaltown that's all about you that is so huge?
I don't know. I don't have my phone. I have my fiance's phone. It's something that says Dental Maverick.
Is it Dental Maverick?
Yeah, Tuan's Dental Maverick course.
Yeah, talk about that thread because everybody loves that thread. So
Yeah.
is it the thread, I'm now a Dental Maverick, I follow my journey?
Oh, that's one of them. That's one of my users.
Tuan's Dental Maverick course.
Dental Maverick course is
Okay.
probably the one you're referring to.
Okay, we got to do something funny, so I'm going to,
Yeah.
so I can hit comment. I'm going to say, are your ears burning? And then I hit camera, take new picture.
Boom.
So,
There you go.
where did you get the name Dental Maverick and what is the Dental Maverick course?
Okay, so as anything, you want a catchy name, and I'm like, you know what? What's a name that embodies someone that wants to take control of their life?
Wasn't Tom Cruise named the Maverick in Top Gun?
Yeah. So we were talking about that. That was one of the things we brought up, and I was like, you know what? We're dentists. We could be a dentist Maverick. And of course, it sounds better to say Dental Maverick. So I was like, hey, Dental Maverick. I looked it up. It wasn't taken. DentalMaverick.com.
What was it from the Tom Cruise movie?
Well,
Top
that was
Gun?
one of the motivations. Yeah.
Well, okay.
He's a Maverick. I mean, he's awesome.
That was a
He's-
great movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great movie.
That's kind of where the name comes from, but it floats.
And what is your course? How long is it? Talk about your course.
Okay. Well, there's two components. There is the first major component, which is the doctor training portion. And I list on the website 48 videos, but it's actually 49 videos. And I encourage people to watch one a week.
When were these videos at?
When?
What's the website address?
At www.dentalmaverick.com.
www.dentalmaverick.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you go there and there's...
And then so look at it, look at the testimonials, see for yourself the proof. But it's a full course to train a doctor from start to finish. Like one of the first things we talk about, and I find it very profound, like I was saying, issues and problems that I recognize in my office are the opportunities to find the solution. It starts with that. It starts with you. If you're not going to step up, because no one's ever going to care about your office as much as yourself. It's like we're dentists. We know people how to quit smoking. You can't make someone quit smoking if they don't want to. They have to go to pre-contemplative, contemplative, and action stage, right? And so, as with anyone, a doctor, if you want to take control of your office, if there are things you don't like, you want to tweak, and you feel like you don't have control. Like you read on Dental Town, a lot of people say, I want to do dentistry. I don't want to do anything else. It drains me. Well, it drains me because they don't know how to do it. So if you're ready for that, you start with yourself and you say, hey, I accept these challenges. I'm going to make a change. I'm going to find the solution and take myself towards my goals and dreams. So we start with that. And then just with anything, I start you a systematic way. I believe in positive feedback. Dentists want to prove to themselves that they can be successful following some skills and have success. So what's one of the easiest things, one of the first things you can do to prove to yourself and give you monetary success? Teach you how to systematically talk better to patients, because we do it all day. It's easier to talk to patients because they're unknown people relative to us. They're not going to be these crucial, hard conversations that we may have to have with staff, meaning there are issues going on, right? So if I can teach someone to more systematically talk to patients, they're going to be like, oh, this is working. Oh, we got more treatment plan acceptances. Our production's going up. I feel good, positive feedback. And then we progress into, hey, now let me explain to you the principles of how to talk to your employees and why. And in this course we break it down. There's really not too many reasons that you have to recognize why staff management is needed. We break it down to 4 reasons. And just like dentists, we want information, we want statistics, we want facts. So I break it down very logically how to recognize each situation, how to talk and address about it. Because we dentists, if we have this system, right, just like I learned how to bond a crown, how to prep a crown, and we did this. Well, I have to make adjustments as I'm working on certain people based on their anatomy, their saliva, whatever the situation is, but I still follow the same basic sequence. And so if dentists have these sequences and they memorize it, and they don't memorize it, but they understand it, well, then they have something to fall back again. And so that fear of how to talk to people is diminished. And that's how you can start becoming an expert at it. You may not be born a leader. You may not know. I didn't know how to use my CIRC to make custom abutments and crowns until I learned. And at the beginning, I did feel a little uncomfortable, but as I do now, I'm much more proficient. I'm still not an expert because I don't have 10,000 hours, I don't think. But I started somewhere, and I started feeling much more confident. So, dentists, not sure how to talk to patients, not sure how to talk to staff. You learn, you practice it. You follow the system. Before you know it, one day you're an expert. And
it's kind of coming out of dental school and opening your own business. It's kind of the same thing as when you got married or had your first kid. I mean, you had your first kid and you didn't go to school for that. You had no training for that. And a lot of your communication not only applies to treatment plan acceptance, dealing with staff, but dealing with your spouse, your children, your in-laws, your...
Oh, yeah. Like my lecture yesterday for you guys, we talked about, we finished on how to talk to your employees when you have to have a crucial conversation, okay? And so what I also told the people, this applies to your daily life, Like, let's say your spouse. There's some people that let things bottle up, and then they say mean things. That's why you go to marriage counseling, whatever. They say, don't use personal attacks. Say things like, I feel this way, right? Because you're not implying judgment on that. It's the same principle when it comes to talking to people in your office or your life, And so if you learn how to do this effectively, you don't put people in a defensive state. If I say something to someone and I just need to correct something, little, I'm like, hey, Sally, I noticed that you put the instrument out, incorrectly and blah, 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 the reasons why. It's non-judgmental. It's not attacking them. I'm not trying to make them feel personal. It's just a statement of fact. And so if we learn how to talk using statements of fact that don't involve emotion or attacking or personal or quote-unquote mean statements, you don't put your subject into a defensive position, because if you do, you've lost the battle already. It doesn't matter how logical your explanation of why this needs to be done is. If I attack someone and I say something mean or personal, they've closed their ears to it. And so you understand these principles, that's it. It's easy.
Well, what do you tell your associate dentist with 2 black eyes?
I don't know.
Nothing. You've already told him twice.
Oh, there you go. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, the human people are the greatest thing about your existence.
Yes.
And they're the worst thing about your gifts. I mean, if you were born on Earth and you're the only one, it'd be very lonely and confusing.
Absolutely.
So people are all the greatest things, and they're all the most challenging things.
And since you bring
I think it's the most important skill set. And by the way, if you're listening to this, all your fans are raving. I don't know anybody who watched your courses that just doesn't worship the ground you walk on.
Yeah.
Because you solve problems. People problems are tough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, like our users, we had very successful users. I mean, we've had people like Dr. Went in Katy, Texas. She's doubled her office in about a year and a half. We have this one guy, he's one of my favorite users. His name is Dr. Mark Reginald. He's so successful now. But when he joined the course, he was telling me he was doing $30,000. He was about to sell his house to pay overhead on his practice and move his family to an apartment. But I was like, listen, I can teach you these skills. And within 6 months, he went from $30,000 to $77,000, and now he's over $100,000 and expanding his office instead of contracting. A lot of dentists, we think externally, meaning that there's a lot of threads that you read. How can I get more patients in? How can I market more effectively? Can I improve my efficiency? Can I learn these new skills to improve my skill set and have more volume? Those are great things. I do these things. I never discount them. But I mean externally, meaning that you have to spend a lot of money, energy, funds to bring this in. But a lot of us, we're missing out on what we have already. We have our office. We have our staff. Our staff, for the most part, they're not looking to sabotage us, or they're just not working as effectively or productively as possible. And so if we can learn to make our staff more productive and effective by having better leadership, that's how we can greatly increase our productivity and profitability without doing, in addition to these other things. And so,
Did you put the first of that 49 tapes on dental?
Yes, sir.
On NC?
The first video is on the front page, and it's the biggest principle of that reframing that I'm talking about.
On the online C course?
Yes.
I wanted to ask a question about that. When we put up the embezzlement courses, the people that create the embezzlement courses didn't want to put it up because they said, I don't want to be the one training your receptionist how to embezzle.
Yeah.
On leadership course, is this something that you would want to watch with your whole staff and spouse or wife, or is this something you should go in the closet to educate yourself?
Well, so
do you not want your wife and hygienist and assistant to know your secrets?
No. On this course, it was originally, like I said, there's two sections. It was originally tailored for the doctor. Okay, and certainly you can have your office watch it too. Okay, it's more specifically tailored to the doctor, but a lot of it's just principle. I'm not teaching anyone or telling anyone to do anything that's negative or detrimental to their staff. I love my staff. My staff helps create my success. I cannot be successful without my office. They understand I'm their boss, but they also understand I'm very fair to them. If I tell them I'm going to do something, there's good reason, and it's not in a manner that just is beneficial to me only. There's always positive effects for everyone in the office. Like I believe in sharing. Like my dad told me when I was younger, hey, he said, if you're successful, you should share it with your office. And so I never forgot that. I think if I'm successful, I share the profits of the office with my staff. And so, yes, I mean, they can watch the videos with their office, but I realized, excuse me, I'm getting hoarse. I realized.
From your lecture? Or from the party last night?
From the lecture. From the air I'm not used to, I don't know. But
well, you're out of Texas, right?
I'm from Texas. The air's real dry
what part
here.
of Texas?
Austin, Texas.
Austin, Texas.
So it's more humid than compared to here.
And Austin, that's where Dell is. That's the That's the high tech area.
Absolutely, it's a great town.
Yeah.
Austinites don't want people to move there because we have so many people here. It's like 100 people come there a day now, move there a day, and it's like, stop it. We got too much traffic. But yeah, in any case, I was saying, we have a doctor portion, but I created a section specifically tailored to staff. And so they can watch it in a manner that condenses it more in ways that are more applicable to them. Because, these skills, a lot of doctors, or you may be asking, like, these skills, communication skills, are also important to staff because a lot of times staff don't know how to talk to each other. You tell your employee, hey, I need this done. And one employee really wants to ask another staff member to help them, but they don't know how to do it. So what do? It is perceived by one party sometimes as Sally is being more bossy to me, right? When that's not the purpose. The purpose was Sally needed you to help complete this project because the boss man, myself, or whomever asked. And so we have a section that teaches the employees also to learn these skills in more condensed detail, more applicable detail in their daily lives. But if they learn how to speak to each other more effectively, well, we're on the same page. If we're on the same page, myself, my staff member, my front desk, my assistant, and we say similar things as everything goes on, well, the patient's going to go through this process where it seems seamless. They hear these things repeated in certain ways because they always say, what? We need to hear things a couple times before we accept it or memorize it, right? Or we believe it. So if you have everyone coordinated, what happens? You get this cumulative effect where you can be very successful, you know? You maximize, it's a win-win situation. A lot of dentists think, I got to sell something to my patients. Well, yeah, it's selling because there's exchange of monies or products for services, but that has sometimes a negative connotation. You know, my patient needs to understand why they need this filling. They need to understand why they need this, even though their tooth doesn't hurt. It's a common misconception or misunderstanding by patients, right? And so if we can be effective explaining that, and so can my staff, and everyone merges, we're not selling. Well, we are selling because we're getting money and production from it. It's a mutual benefit on both parties. It's a win-win situation. That's how I feel about things. I don't.
Well, how much is your course online?
Well, the doctor portion, we certainly have a new graduate discount, but for the doctors, it's $62.95. And if you wanted the whole course with staff training, it's $9,995. And if you have people doubling their production or increasing 20 to 30% or plus, 200 to 400 plus thousand a year, that's peanuts compared to anything.
Well, I mean, every consultant in the world will tell you, you routinely see two dental offices in the same medical dental building.
Yes.
And they both have the same number of patients,
yes.
And one's producing $600,000 a year, and the one next door is doing $1.2 million
yes.
on the same number of charts.
Yes.
And the average treatment plan acceptance rate in the United States is 38%. And they say that their problem is Obama, the economy, the elections, Hillary, Trump,
mm-hmm.
Everything. Mm-hmm. It's Putin in the Ukraine. It's not their treatment plan.
Did you come to my lecture because I said the exact thing? Or
yeah.
are you just reading my mind? Yeah.
I mean, they don't get that. If you took your treatment plan acceptance from 38 mm-hmm. to 73 out of 4,
absolutely.
I mean, it's just crazy, the math on that.
Absolutely. In my practice,
and most of us don't even track it.
Yes, absolutely. Like in my practice, I see about 4 doctor patients a day. That's my goal I wanted in life. I wanted to practice that way, so I created this whatever, And part of the reason I could do that comes from the higher treatment plan acceptances, Like doctors, like you were saying, we worry too much about these external forces. I don't concern myself with really, President Obama or Putin or future next president or even what the office is down the street, Those people, sometimes they're viewed as competition. Yeah, but you know what? Technically, they are competition, but they're really your colleagues. I don't concern myself with it because even if they did certain things, I don't know how effective they are. I don't know how they, what they do, how effective it is in their office. It doesn't matter to me. The only things that matter to me are the things that I can control within my realm of influence, which means myself, my decisions, my actions, which I pass down to my office, and how I hold them accountable for. But those are the things I can do. And so I don't worry about the other things. I worry about how I can be effective and maximize when I go to work every day, And once you get that, well then...
I want to talk about something else about communication. When I go into offices, it seems like the offices that are crushing it, the doctor not only is a great communicator, but they'll also communicate about the numbers.
Yes.
And when I go into a starving office and a lot of stress, and they always blame it on externalities, like you say, it's always politics, whatever. Not only are they not great communicators, but they're not transparent with their numbers. You go to any staff members, what do we have to do to break even today? No idea. Yeah. What do we have to do to pay our bills? No idea. And a lot of dentists just sit there and say, I don't feel comfortable showing the math to the staff. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, it's understandable. There are some doctors
and I'll say, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
and I'll also say it in old school, like like when I go back to Kansas and family reunions, it's not appropriate to ask your cousin Eddie, well, how much do you make working at Boeing, or what do they pay? Some people, the finances they come from a culture where you just don't tell people how much money you make.
Sure.
And I'm not going to tell you if my wife is a volunteer at the school lunch program or she gets money.
Yeah.
And now some of these consultants are saying talk about money, and that's just not my pedigree.
Sure. Sure.
What would you say to that?
Well, so when it comes to like numbers and metrics in your office, there are some people that have metrics for everything. Okay. So in my opinion, this is just my personal opinion. I like metrics, but I don't like overloaded metrics. I think some things, the overall picture, it's important to be profitable and successful. Okay. But I personally don't need to know every single number in the world. I'm not good with numbers, so it overwhelms me. But there are numbers that your office should know, okay? My office in general knows what the overhead is roughly per month. They know roughly how much we have to create so that we can pay our bills, and that after that certain amount, like I said, because I offer profit share, that they will receive a portion of it. So I believe that some numbers are important. Your office needs to know, hey, we need to do at least this much or else we're in trouble. If your office didn't know that, and it wasn't something that was at least in the back of their mind, they're never aware of it. And so if they're not aware of it, and they're like, oh, doctor doesn't say anything, we could just do $2,000 a day, but then you're hemorrhaging cash in your office, and you don't mention it to your staff, and they have no clue about it, what's going to happen? You're going to get to a reaching point where, boom, someone's fired. You have to cut staff like that, and they're wondering, why did the doctor just fire me like that, right? Well, once again, I was going back to that thing. A lot of doctors, we don't know anything except the extremes. We know the beginning, and we know when we make these harsh or critical decisions that are massively, potentially life-impacting. So we miss out in the middle. Some of the middle just comes from information, and if you're talking about numbers or information to the staff to understand, there are certain informations that I feel at a minimum your staff should know so that we're just kind of all roughly on the same page and aware of what we should be doing.
And and they take the same problem home, because they'll come home some days and they'll say, yeah, I started an ortho case today, and the wife started a Invisalign case today. And the wife's saying, oh, how much does Invisalign cost? You say $5,000. Yeah. So the wife's saying, oh my God, we just made $5,000 a day. And then she runs out and spends $3,000.
Absolutely.
And then the dentist, he's living in this bubble, and he wants his wife to believe that she's married to a successful dentist. Yeah. But inside he's almost ready to explode. Yeah. And it all goes back to, you don't share the numbers even with your spouse. Yeah. And then when they talk about divorce, a third of it's over money, a third of it's over sex, a third of it's over substance abuse, and all three of those, it's simply because you're not communicating about it.
Absolutely. A lot of people were just scared to communicate, and part of it is, I don't know, maybe it's dental school, maybe dentists were just more of an introverted, reserved type. Maybe we just absorb things more. I don't know. There are a lot of things that I don't want to talk about sometimes. And because we're all different, we all have things that bother us or make us feel uncomfortable.
Well, you don't have to say about what happened last night, because what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right?
Yes, absolutely. But yes, if you don't communicate these things that you feel uncomfortable about or whatever, everything's perception. Let's say the dentist and his wife, she thinks he's super successful, she doesn't understand overhead, and they're just blowing through cash, and then he's bottling it up, and then one day he blows up and says, we need a divorce because, well, you're blowing money. She may have never known it. Why? Because once again, we're talking about the extremes. The dentist recognized the problem and didn't say anything till he's bottled up and blowing it up. This whole middle section, he just had to discuss it. And maybe he didn't know how to do it, just like staff or whatever. He didn't know how to effectively have this conversation. And so these skills go over everything. And I can save divorces. Boom.
And another thing I've realized over the years is, everybody complains about gossip. Mm-hmm. You know what I really think is the fundamental crux of gossip is, I come to you and I start saying something bad about another person, and so I'm venting and blowing off steam so I feel better. Yes. But I didn't solve the problem. Yes. Because I should have been talking to that person. Yes. And when people are spreading gossip, it's not that they're spreading gossip, it's that they don't understand that don't tell me this story because it'll make you feel better. Yeah. And you need to go talk to that person and solve the problem. And this is a really bad habit about feeling better by talking about it to someone else. Yeah. It's misdirected communication.
It is.
Go back and talk.
Yes.
I don't want to hear the story.
Yeah.
Go back to Charlie and tell him what you're telling me, and then you're going to get some communication going, and then you're going to solve the problem.
We all want to blow off steam. There's nothing wrong with blowing off steam. Like sometimes I just have to tell someone, I have to complain for a second. But if I complain, remember the problem's still there. I feel good venting a little, right? But I also recognize that I need to address the situation or whatever issue it is with whatever party that I have the issue with. Nothing wrong with complaining. Nothing wrong with venting. But go to that problem and get it resolved. There's your opportunity. Why let this thing build up for the rest of your life indefinitely, your career or your family life or whatever it is? Just go talk. If you talk, sometimes it's just miscommunication, misperception, and get on the same page. That's it. You both feel better. It's win-win.
So I'm going to ask you a double-edged sword. Two things I want you to, that you just hear all the time, okay? Number one, and this sounds so bad to say, but this is Dentistry Uncensored. Men will just sit there and say, well, I mean, what do you expect? I mean, they're all damn women. Damn it. You know, they're women. They're crazy.
Sure.
Then women dentists are routinely tell me all the time, well, it's just so much harder for a woman to manage 5 women than it is for a man.
Yeah.
And so talk about the sexist. What do you say to a man who says, well, you know, it's impossible to talk to women? And what do you say to a woman who says women don't listen to women like they listen to men?
Okay.
So you could be Mr. Leadership because you're a man.
Okay.
I'm a woman.
I'm a man, so first of all, I'm going to say that it's probably easier for me to talk about the first scenario because, you know, I'm not a lady. I don't know what you're thinking sometimes. So I'd say in a man, if he's addressing a woman and he feels like it's more difficult to talk to, well then, if you were in the lecture yesterday, you would have seen it's about talking about facts and being systematic and making sure emotions gets involved. Okay, if emotion gets involved, and I will say in general, I assume women are more emotional than men's, then it's easier to tilt a woman, I assume, to be emotional. So it's more important if you're talking as a man to a woman that you make sure that you don't say these things that will cause a emotional and defensive reaction. You have to be very succinct. You have to be very factual, okay? Because facts in the present, meaning that if you recognize it occurring before it's too long and it's now an illusion or it's distorted, facts are facts. They're undisputable, okay? And so if you're a man talking to a woman and you have to stick more with facts so that the potential of having a defensive reaction is minimized. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know if I am qualified at all to really say, to answer your second question, but I think the same also applies. You know, if you're a women doctor leading women's staff, you have the benefit. You actually recognize perhaps that it's easier. I'm making assumptions here, so I'm not trying to be sexist or anything, but I'm assuming that you know how you are and your fellow ladies are, and how perhaps it is easier to tip the emotional response. If that's the case, once again, we have to step away from that. We need to stick to the facts. We need to be systematic in how we explain these things and the reasoning and the logic that goes after that. So those are my thoughts on that.
Okay, and I want to ask you another question. A lot of consultants routinely do personality disc assessments. Your program is 48 hours or 49 hours?
49 videos.
It's 49 videos?
Yes.
And
how they vary in length.
They vary in length?
Well, I like TED Talks, so I recognize that people have attention span. So I try to make my videos somewhere between 20 or 30 minutes. I don't like to keep them too long because it's too long. I believe in summation, meaning every week if we implement these little skills, major important points, then it all adds up to this massive change. If you learn overwhelmed, you can't effectively implement it. Your body's on overload. Every week you add up and it blows up in summation.
Do you believe in that disc technology? Do you
like personality assessment?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
So do you think it's worthwhile to have all your staff come in and they measure them on a personality disc assessment?
In the course we actually talk about that. Like, there are many types of personality assessments. Okay, we just talk about. One of the most common one is the ones that go like ESTJ or whatever. Personality assessment I think is important. Not because as a boss it gives you an overview of who your employees are. You may recognize that some employees are very technical people, very systematic people that can work very independently. If you give them a skill, they'll find the answer. You may recognize, like one of my assistants, we did a personality test and I found that she follows direction very well, but she doesn't like independent thinking. So if I recognize that and I gave her a task, I know to give her very specific instructions because she will follow it to a T. I mean, she will do it like this every single time. And she's so good at it, she's so organized. I have another staff member that we realized, I can just give her the end result that I want. And she will find the path to it. Every once in a while she gets stuck or she needs help or she wants my opinion. She'll ask me something to help guide her, but she will find the result herself. So I believe in personality tests because, hey, if you have a more knowledgeable idea of who you are employing and hiring. It just helps you aid in maximizing the effectiveness and productivity of your office, you know?
I want to ask you, so I'm just throwing out more problems that I always hear in downtown. I work in this office, and there's basically two gods, because the wife is the dentist, and the husband's the office manager, and he says blue and she says red, and I don't even know what to do anymore. I mean, these guys can't get their shit together. Who am I supposed to follow? What am I supposed to do? I'm a hygienist working here, I'm, how do you handle that?
Well, that's a tough situation. If you're a hygienist and you have two people, like you're saying, that are at odds at each other, well, if you're a hygienist, unless you have the ability or unless you have the influence to get the two owners on the same page or the two people in lead on the same page, you're kind of stuck. You just have to go day by day. Whoever's in the mood of being nicer or telling you to do stuff, you probably just follow what they do. But it comes to the leaders. If the two owners or the two people in charge are at odds, they're shooting themselves in the foot. They're never going to get to the destination they want. They have to sit down with themselves. They have to, if they don't agree on things, that's fine, but don't bring it up in the office. Don't counter each other in the office. Go home, have these discussions amongst yourselves, decide, come to a compromise or come to whatever resolution you want. It all starts with communication. One person wants this, one person wants this. Well, discuss the pros and cons or whatever you do to come to a common solution that you guys as a team can bring down. If you're the hygienist, unfortunately, you can't do that unless you are persuasive enough to both of them and say, hey, you guys need to get on the same page. Because you're as a hygienist, you don't have the power, likely in your office, to affect these changes. It's the people that have the power to affect those changes. Those leaders, presumably the doctors, the owners, doctors' wives, whatever. But they got to be on the same page.
Okay, same scenario, but now it's not my boss's husband and wife team. Mm-hmm. Now it's a damn patient. This kid needs this, and the parents are divorced, and the dad's saying go right, and the mom's saying go left, and they're divorced, and they hate each other's guts, and I got a 12-year-old in the chair.
Yeah, well, in that case, I say, listen, I recognize you guys are divorced, but you have to make a decision. I'm recommending this, so I can't have it that you tell me one thing and the other person tells me one thing. This is what I recommend. Kid needs a stainless steel crown, whatever. You guys discuss that and you let me know what you want me to do. But you make the decision, and once you do that, once you sign a consent, that's you made the decision. We're going to proceed with whatever you say, but you two need to make the decision, and these are my recommendations, and when you're ready, you come back to me. Shift the responsibility back to them. A lot of dentists feel like I have to absorb all my patients' problems. Nah, state it factually. Be confident in yourself. You know what the patient needs. Tell it. If they can't decide, that's their fault. Their decision. Shift the responsibility back to the patients, the parents, or whatever. Hey, when you're ready, you have made a firm commitment or decision on what you want, you let us know. We'll take good care of your kid. Boom.
Okay, another huge threat on Dental Town. My overhead's going up. I feel like I'm not paying my bills, and my hygienist just came by at lunch and told me she wants a raise.
Well then,
and I just want to go in the bathroom and throw up because I don't want to lose her because she's been here 7 years. My patients love her.
Okay.
It's been a year. She told me it's been a year. She wants another $1.
Yeah.
God dang it, I'm sick.
Well then, first of all, with that statement, that's limited information. So we're going to make assumptions, and we're going to make general statements on what I have to say. Okay. Let's say if I had a staff member come to me and they said, "I want a raise, doc." I'm not opposed to the raise. Okay, really, I'm not. But I will say, hey, you know what? Okay, well, and let's say in your hypothetical situation, the hygienist has been there for a while, and she wants a $1 raise or whatever, but her office isn't doing well. I'll say, listen. This is your opportunity to get the hygienist to understand the situation and potentially work harder for that raise, right? So I would say, this is where money and facts that you were talking about, stats may come out. Sally, I appreciate it. I want to give you a raise, but I'm going to tell you right now, I'll show you some numbers. We're bleeding money. We're not making money. So how about this? I will give you that raise, and we're going to work out as a team to figure out how to make this happen. Give her a goal. We get to this production, you get, we're going to track your production by hour to see how effective you are. All these little things add up. Add some sealants, add some fluoride, whatever your office philosophy is. Hey, you see 8 patients a day. Let's add another sealant per patient or a fluoride treatment for these patients. $40 times 8 says $320. That's going to help with the overhead. I'm going to give you that raise once we hit this goal, and then we're going to continue and expand. And we're going to go from here. We're going to have goals for everyone. I want to pay you guys more, but we need this to occur. And I'm glad you brought it up because we've been bleeding money. And, now there's an opportunity for me to share this with you, but I want to give you this rate because we need to do this first. I think that seems fair. You give them a goal, they try to accomplish it, everyone wins.
Now, you put a course on Dental Town.
Yes, sir.
And when was that? Tell them about that course.
I think it was released, I don't know, a year ago, maybe? Mm-hmm. It's a primer on leadership.
So if you go to the iPhone and go to the CE, it has featured courses, categories. What category was it under?
I honestly do not remember.
Practice management?
Perhaps. But I don't know how to search.
What's the name of your... What was the name of your course?
I'm honestly not sure. Because I don't have my phone on me. I have my fiance's phone.
So are you going to teach your fiance all these communication deals, or would that work against you?
No. We actually, that's funny. Like, I'm getting married next January. And so, I'm a logical person, meaning that I always thought that, this is kind of cynical, but I always thought that, when someone got married, sometimes you settle. I mean, you pick, hey, you're good enough. But I'm going to say I met this lady, and she's amazing. It matches everything that I just knew. And so we're both on the same page, and we don't fight, we don't argue, It's like with this, I told her that communication is one of the most important things to me. If something bothers you, or I'm bothered, I'm going to tell you about it. And so we do this. I mean, we talk about these things. We bought this great book, 10 Great Dates Before You Get Married. It tells you to go over these crucial conversations that...
10 Great Dates Before You Get Married?
Yeah, absolutely.
See, my problem is my cat can't read.
Well, there you go.
Here.
Your CE course is called Success, Profitability, and Destiny Begins With You. It was released last September.
Yes. It's the same title as the one today, but I retooled the lecture that I did yesterday for you guys.
Well, hey, we are out of time, but I just want to say that you're the if you could put the words dentistry and leadership together, only your name would come up.
Well, I appreciate
you're
that.
absolutely the leader.
Yes.
Those threads on Dental Town, all your fans are raving. Everyone loves you. I love you. I think. And like I say, if you meet any dentist from here to Kathmandu and say, what's the number one problem that keeps you up at night? It's always staff.
Yeah.
And if it's not staff, then it's patients.
Yeah.
And if it's not patients, it's their spouse.
Yeah.
It's never the bonding agent.
You know what? Absolutely. If dentists can take more control of their patients, their office, they're going to lead themselves to whatever goals they want in life. It doesn't matter. These principles are universal to any type of practice that you have.
For me, the only thing that keeps me up at night is my 4 damn sons. And Ryan, you're the most troubling one. I'm just kidding. But hey, thanks for all you do for dentistry.
Absolutely.
Thanks for posting. How many posts do you have on Dental Town?
Oh, I don't know. What does it say? 10,000? I know I'm over 10,000, probably 12,000.
I mean, thank you so much. I mean, it's just like, it's so, Dental Town is Dental Town. Not because of the programmers or the internet. It's just guys like you that those guys ask the question.
I'm giving back.
You're just on it.
I'm glad you created Dental Town. Like I told you the other day, it changed my life. I wouldn't be who I am without Dental Town and what you created. And so,
no, Dental Town wouldn't be Dental Town without guys like you.
So I appreciate
you guys made Dental Town.
I appreciate the offer, and I appreciate this podcast, the whole 9 yards.
All right, buddy. Well, you're always anytime you ever want to come back. I mean, if
absolutely.
You ever got something, you always come back because every time we do a podcast with you or you post on Dental Town, where everybody loves your stuff.
Well, thank you, Robert.
Thanks, buddy, and good luck on that marriage.